Hello, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another one of my live videos, and today I'm just going to be officially updating you on some more current latest news. A lot more things now is updated in the press. A bit more of a transfer news today. I'm going to update you with on this current video. So if you do consider drop a like, smash that like button, or if you do consider subscribe to the channel. So we basically know reportedly Jose Mourinho is going to get around £100 million spending in January spend. So far, he's got 11 players in the club. He's just spent under £400 million. As I said, we know he's under serious pressure from leaving Old Trafford. Considering our poor start to the season with 21 goals conceded in 12 Premier League games as well. And we know basically Jose Mourinho is looking to address the defensive issues. Jose Mourinho's looking to strengthen up attackers as well. Reportedly, a lot of pundits and former players have had says on the situation with Jose Mourinho at Old Trafford. According to Louis Saha, ex-Manchester United player, of course, he's convinced that, according to him, Jose Mourinho can turn things around due to that. He's got a fantastic pedigree. He's won titles everywhere he's been, including proven in the Premier League. And he says he's got that quality and that fantastic pedigree to turn things around at Manchester United. So obviously Saha has faith that Jose Mourinho can turn things around at Manchester United. Gary Neville's been discussing about Jose Mourinho. And Gary Neville, obviously the former Manchester United player, has suggested how he's basically admitted he's unsure area Mourinho needs to improve, but obviously that's obvious because defensively we're no good. Attackively, we need to improve to score more goals, and we need a strong centre half to stop conceding lots of goals because we have got the worst goal difference this season. We have worst goal difference. I think there's only 4 teams that are worse off than us in the Premier League this season. But we know Mourinho's let 14 players go since he got appointed manager a couple of years ago. Jose Mourinho has won 3 trophies since he's come to the club as well. But we know he's been linked with quite a lot of players. He's been linked with Tove Alderweireld, Harry Maguire, Jerome Boateng as well. Um, he's been linked with quite a lot of players. Jose Mourinho, there's been talks about Jordan Pickford in the current transfer news as well. But reportedly as well, another player's come on the agenda. Reporter, he's called Lorenzo Pellegrini. He's a player that's his height is very good. He's over 6 foot. Is this player? Reportedly, he can play as a defensive midfielder. Um, he can play. I think he can play as a centre midfielder. He can play as an attacking midfielder, and he can play as a central midfielder as well. Reportedly, his performances have been very good for Roma. He's a player who spent the majority of his career with Roma. This player, reportedly, he's good in the air. He's quick on the ball. Um, Potential, I don't really know much about him, but reportedly, I know that Man United have been in potential discussions with his current representatives. Reportedly, he does have a 27 million release clause, does the player. Reportedly, Manchester United are looking to activate this 27 million release clause the current player's got. I don't think Rome want to do any business from their perspective. I don't think they want to sanction him off. I think they want to secure him a new deal at the club because he's currently coming to an end of his new one. But I think Roma want to secure him a new deal at Roma. Reportedly, Man United are preparing to go for the player in January. Man United are looking to activate his 27 million release clause, the player. But what I've seen from some of his statistics, especially this season, he has been in superb form for Roma. As I said, he spent the majority of his career with Roma. As I said, 27 million release clause. He's been in Roma majority of his career. As I said, he risen up the ranks with Roma during his youth system in the youth academy. He made his actual senior debut for Roma back in 2015, his senior debut. And then I think he went to Sluso for a year or two. He made over 50 appearances in all competitions with them. And then Roma re-got him back in 2017, the player as well. Reportedly, I think did he make senior debut for Italy last year or something like that for the international national side as well. But reportedly, Man United are heavily linked with him. So do you think he'd potentially complement our midfield fantastically well? Do you think he'd fit into the Manchester United agenda really well if he was to come? He is 6'2", because we know we've got quite a few midfielders that are tall. We've got Matic, that's quite tall. Obviously, Mourinho's been reluctant to drop Nemanja Matic, which is why the current Manchester United players are frustrated with him. there's quite a few players frustrated with Mourinho's style of play, his tactics, and his managerial style. But obviously, Mourinho's admitted he wants to get a central defender in. He wants to sanction some players off. The board are backing him now. We know basically he's still under pressure. We know basically the board are focusing on getting these players new deals at Manchester United that come to end the deals, because we know we've got a catalogue of players at Old Trafford that are coming to the end of the deals as well. But that's the latest news about Lorenzo Pellegrini. Man United have been in discussions with his representatives about potentially coming to Old Trafford. This would, I think, double his salary if Manchester United were to get. This would double his salary, because Manchester United are willing to pay 27 million release clause in the January transfer window as well. Do you think he'd fit the Manchester United agenda very, very well? He's never been proven in the Premier League. He only made his senior debut for Roma back in 2015. Made his international debut last year, so in 2017, but he's never been proven in the Premier League. He's always basically played in Italy as the player, of course, but reportedly Man United looking to get his 27 million release clause there as well, and reportedly he's been in very, very impressive form this season as the player. Also to confirm you one, reportedly Manchester United have been linked with Kaloubi. He's another Italian player. He plays for Napoli. Reportedly, he just recently been nominated African Player of the Year as the current player. Reportedly can play as a centre back. He can also play as a left back. He can also play as a defensive midfield as well. Reportedly, he's large, he's quick, he's very, very good in the air. Reportedly, he's a good, strong tackler. Reportedly, what I've heard of him, he seems to be a very, very good player. Reportedly, Man United have been linked with him. Mourinho says he's interested in the player. Reportedly, Manchester United have put around 80-90 million pound bidding for the player. Reportedly, this had been turned down by Napoli. We know the player has got a new contract with Napoli. I think he's got a new contract with Napoli as Kaloubi. I don't think I pronounced his name right, but he has got a new contract with them as the player. Reportedly, he has been in Italy since like 2014 as a player, so this is like his fourth, fifth year now with Napoli. He's also been at Metz in the past. He's been at Genk in the past as well as the current player, but partly Manchester United are linked with him. Do you think he'd complement our defensive area fantastic well? For him, he's never been proven in the Premier League. Do you think he'd fit the Manchester United agenda fantastically well? I'd like to know your opinions on it, because obviously, defensively, we have got defensive rivers. Jose Mourinho's looking to address it. Potentially we know Chris Smalling and Victor Lindelof have been participating mostly in that defensive area this season. We know Bailey can't get into the team, as we all know. Eric Bailey, obviously, he's linked to a move away. Arsenal, Tottenham, AC Milan, Paris Saint-Germain, they're teams that are interested in getting Eric Bailey. Barney, who's been here since like 2016. He's a very, very good strong tackler. He's a very, very good calm and composed defender, is Eric Bailey. But obviously, potentially, he can't get into the starting 11 this season. Bailey may feel frustrated about this, but there's quite a few teams potentially interested in him. Jose Mourinho said he's looking to sanction him off because he's out of favour now at Old Trafford. Got Marcos Rojo there. For me, I can't remember last time he played Marcus Rojo. I said he hasn't been the same player since the Anderlecht game in the the Anderlecht game, was it last year or so, when he suffered that injury. Potentially Darmian, he could potentially leave in the club as well, could Matteo Darmian. As we all know, Jose Mourinho is convinced he still basically wants to keep him to the end of the season. Darmian's only played once this season, so he can't even get into the starting 11 at the moment, can Matteo Darmian. There has been talks about him potentially going back to Italy. There's a few Italian clubs interested in the player. He's an ex-Torino player, and he's been at Old Trafford now 3 or 4 years as the player. But I think he's coming to an end of his current contract as well. But potentially, Jose Mourinho wants to keep until at least next summer from his perspective. But I think from Darwin's perspective, he does want to leave Old Trafford because he can't even get into the starting 11 now. Because potentially, we know that full-back position, Luke Shaw's playing now with that full-back position, as we all know. He had disputes with Jose Mourinho last season. Did Luke Shaw? He didn't. He struggled in his first season under Louis van Gaal. Luke Shaw last season didn't get a lot of game time, but this season he's full in that left back position, where Diamond can also play. So potentially for me, Diamond could leave, even though Mourinho wants to keep him till next summer as well. Potentially for me, Manchester United are also linked, as we all know, with Toby Alderweireld and Harry Maguire's been mentioned, who signed a long-term deal with Leicester not too long ago. We're all being linked with both, and linked with Diego Gordon as well. So potentially, as I said, it said in the press the other day, Man United were willing to do a cut price deal for Toby Alderweireld in the January window. Man United and the board are aware he's available for 25 million next summer because he has a 25 million release clause for next summer to Toby Alderweireld. But he'd be beneficial because he can play as centre back, he can play as back as well. Can the player, and he's proven in the Premier League. This is now his third or fourth season in Tottenham. He's been at Southampton in the past, as we all know. Potentially, he's been at Atletico Madrid where he won the title with them. And he's been at Ajax, where he went on as a 1-3 Eredivisie titles with Ajax as well. But he's Premier League proven. He's been in the Premier League now quite a few years as the player. For me, he seems very, very good defender, and I think he'd complement our defence fantastically well. I think he'd full that spot very, very well. Toby Alderweireld. Ed Woodward has been discussions with Tottenham over Manchester United getting him during the course last summer. Ed Wood was in discussions. Man United never got a deal materialised, obviously, because reportedly from Man United's perspective, Tottenham were demanding an extortionate £60 million for the player. Man United were reluctant to pay this. Man United have been monitoring him. Jose Mourinho's been watching him and monitoring him, and Jose Mourinho's basically satisfied with the current players' performances, as I said. But obviously, Tottenham would rather cash a bit more money in January rather than let him go cheaper next summer. So the Alderweireld. But we know Man United have been heavily linked to him. Potentially, Man United have been in discussions of getting the player. So potentially, we could get him in January. Tottenham still top from Tottenham's perspective. They're still basically an essential player for them. Reportedly, they've still got Vertonghen out as well. But his versatility is good. He's good in the air, reportedly, and he's a good he's a good player from what I've seen of him. And we know also Man United are linked with Diego Gordon. That's been coming out in the press quite a few weeks now. Diego Gordon, obviously no experience of being in the Premier League, but obviously he's been in Spain for the majority of his career, as we all know. Villarreal 3 years, now he's at Atletico Madrid. Been at Atletico Madrid about 8 or 9 years now, and Atletico Madrid a very, very good team. He's playing them on, good players, Atletico Madrid is Diego Gordon. He is a central defender, is the player. Reportedly, he does have around the 20 million release clause. The player is coming to a conclusion soon of his current deal. Atletico Madrid are looking to secure him a new deal at Atletico Madrid. Reportedly, Man United have made contact with Atletico Madrid over Manchester United getting the pursuit of Diego Gordon, but he does reportedly the player have a 20 million release clause. He does have a 20 million release clause as the player. So reportedly Manchester United are very, very interested in him as well. I think he's won 7 honours during his career as the player as well. So potentially, we've heard the rumours, yesterday coming out of the press about potentially Memphis Depay making the move back to Old Trafford as well. As I updated you yesterday on a couple of my videos, as I said, Manchester United have had great number 7s over the years. Memphis Depay, who's proved himself well out of English football, under Louis van Gaal, Memphis Depay didn't really make a big impact at the club. There's a lot of Manchester United fans that have come out and suggested how they want basically Mourinho to activate his buyback clause for him to make a return to Old Trafford. Um, but he didn't really make an impact when he was at Old Trafford, and we've seen players go back to ex clubs over the years. As I mentioned, Thierry Henry did it. Um, Potentially, you saw Diego Costa do it, and you saw David Luiz do it, and there's quite a few other players that have done it as well. It's not very often, to be quite honest with you, that does happen, but potentially for Memphis to feels happy, with Leon. He's doing a fantastic job for Leon. He's scoring goals. He's he's a winger. He's really, really good at cutting inside defenders. His passing ability is very, very good as well, and he's a prolific goal scorer, as he's proven for Leon, but just wasn't for Manchester United under Louis van Gaal. He was at United a couple of years. I think we got him for £25 million. He was very, very good during his PSV days as well. Was the top scorer for them in the 24 and 15 season, helped them win the title as well, PSV Eindhoven. But reportedly, would you like to see Depay back at Manchester United on that left-hand side? I still think it needs addressing because we know Sanchez isn't delivering the goods. We know PSG linked with him. PSG linked him last year. Only scored 4 goals since he's come to the club, and he's only on half a million. He's on half a million a week. Sanchez hasn't really established himself well in the Manchester United team since he's come. We know he's proven in the Premier League. He's been in the Premier League all in all since as a player since 2013, because he was at Arsenal 4 or 5 years and now he's at Manchester United. But he just isn't fitting in the Manchester United agenda. While he's not getting along with a lot of teammates, Sanchez since he's come. And he was good in his Barcelona days, and he was good in his Indonesia days. But there has been reports of him potentially leaving. I think from his perspective, he does want to leave because he doesn't like John. He admitted he doesn't like Jose Mourinho's managerial style. He doesn't like his style of play. And I think potentially Sanchez could leave, and so potentially we do need that left hand side addressing, especially if he does leave, because we've got 2 young talents, Martial and Rashford, that are good. They will grow and develop more. Martial's been in absolutely scintillating form this season as the player, but potentially we know we need someone more experienced, older and more experienced on that left hand side, and Martial and Rashford have got it, but obviously they are still only youngsters, as we all know, and Sanchez is experienced, but we know he hasn't, delivered the goods so far to Manchester United. Potentially Depay, he's better than obviously he's better than Marcus Rashford. Obviously, Rashford's still a very, very good player, but obviously Depay's more experienced. He's obviously older than Marcus Rashford as well. Potentially, I would take him back at Manchester United. If we could potentially get the player back, because I do like him. He's been fantastic for Leon, but he's more experienced than Martial and Rashford is Depay, and that's potentially the difference. And Sanchez basically hasn't delivered the goods so far since he's come to United. As we all know, there's been potential talks about him leaving. You've got Anthony Martial, as we all know. He hasn't signed this new deal yet. He currently turned down the previous contract offer. He's been in fantastic form this season. We know Martial and Rashford have been fulfilling. Well, they have been playing in that central position where Lukaku plays, in the last couple of games, obviously before the City game, because obviously Lukaku had been injured, and obviously considering his form this season, which hasn't been very, very good, compared to last season, Lukaku. We know everyone talks about him being a big game baller. His first touch isn't very, very good, but he's proven in the Premier League. When he's on form, he can really, really score goals. Everyone talks about him being a big game battler. But potentially for me, we need a backup option for Romelu Lukaku up front. So we need someone up front as well, indeed. We need someone up front indeed, and Martial, reportedly Mourinho wants to stay at Old Trafford. I think Martial wants him to stay at Old Trafford, but obviously these players of these calibre, the money that's being put into the club, we should be more of a commanding position, and a lot of these players want to be up there challenging for titles, as we currently know. As he updated you, what we're going on about potentially, there's been talks about potentially Manchester United showing an interest in Jordan Pickford. If David De Gea does depart the club, we know he's won Player of the Year 4 out of 5 seasons as David De Gea. Potentially, we've had him since 2011 at Old Trafford. Obviously, he's not down to Atletico Madrid, and he's a player that's not seen the lack of ambition in the team, lack of effort, lack of work rate in the team, and he doesn't seem to be satisfied about this. Man United have been in discussions with his representatives about securing this contract extension. Reportedly, David De Gea has turned this down. David Gea has turned this down. He's so basically we have to hope he does sign his contract extension. David De Gea at the club. Potentially, we know Juventus have been monitoring and interested in him. Also to he mentioned Real Madrid, but obviously Real Madrid snubbed their interest because they obviously got the purchaser Courtois. He has been in the Premier League now 7-8 years as David De Gea. Mourinho said quite a few weeks ago he wasn't too confident David De Gea was going to secure sign this contract extension. But potentially, Manchester, we only got 3 players during the summer window, so it was a disappointing summer window. Last summer, and Jose Mourinho missed out on quite a lot of potential targets that I wanted to get into the club. For me, potentially this team is good enough. Jose Mourinho just needs to get his starting 11 correct. Give Fred the opportunity. He paid £50 million for. Maybe give Pereira a run in that midfield. We know Mourinho has a strong relationship with Matic. This is why he may not want to drop him. For me, he needs to be dropped because he hasn't been in his best form this season. Potentially for me, Manny and Fellaini, he can play well at the odd time. He's an average player. We've had him since 2013 when Moyes got him for £27 million. Obviously, it was a panic buy. Moyes had worked for him in the past with Everton. Before Moyes come to Manchester United and Fellaini come to Manchester United. But I think he played well in Manchester Derby, to be quite fair to him. I think he's recently had a haircut as well. But Fellaini and Matic in the midfield are very, very static. And Herrera alongside that as well. So we need to give Fred and Pereira the chance in there, in my opinion. But yeah, talking about the goalkeeper, Man United have been linked with Jordan Pickford as a replacement if David De Gea is to leave Old Trafford. Jordan Pickford, his performances in the World Cup in Russia, were absolutely fantastic, to be quite fair to him. He's been at Everton since 2017 as the player, as the goalkeeper. Jordan Pickford reportedly has made around 50 appearances for Everton as Jordan Pickford since he joined. Do you think he'd do very, very well to replace David De Gea if he was to come to Manchester United? Reportedly, Man United would have to pay an extortion around £60 million for Jordan Pickford if David De Gea was to leave and Manchester United were interested in getting the player, Jordan Pickford. He's a player, as we all know, he's won Everton's Player of the Season, Everton's Player of the Season, and Everton Young Player of the Season since he's been at Everton, Jordan Pickford. Reportedly, he's also been he risen up the ranks with the Sunderland reserves, and we know he's been at quite a lot of teams on loan. He's been at Darlington, Alfred Town, Bradford, Burton, Carlisle, and he's been at Preston North End as well as Jordan Pitt. Potentially, Manchester United have identified him as a replacement if David De Gea is potentially to leave the club. So we potentially have to see what happens. But Jose Mourinho's philosophy needs to change because we know we have spent a lot of money. Since Ferguson retired, we have spent a lot of money on players. We spent like £1 billion. And we've had, different managers with different philosophies and different style of players, as we all know. Potentially, we've seen players we've bought come in, we've seen players go. And basically, the money we've spent since Ferguson retired, it just basically hasn't worked out because the team haven't gelled properly together properly, as we all know. But potentially, there were news to update you with about Romelu Lukaku. As I said the other day, reportedly he had been withdrawn from the France squad at the player, reportedly. So he's going to miss the encounter with Switzerland, reportedly, it said in the press. He's been withdrawn from the France squad. He'd recently suffered an injury quite a few weeks ago from Manchester United as well. Reportedly, we hope he's fit for the Crystal Palace game on Saturday, or is it Sunday? And we'll have to look at that. We know also Martial has been withdrawn from the France squad as well as Paul Pogba as well. So that's potentially something to update you with. Well, I updated you with that last week as well. So potentially at the beginning of the video, I did say Man United are reportedly interested in Lorenzo Pellegrini. He's a central midfielder, can also play as attacking mid as well, and the central mid. He's a player that's been at Roma for the majority of his career. He's up the youth academy with them. He made his senior debut for them back in 2015. He went to Sluice and made about over 50 appearances and now he's back at Rome, and he's been back at Rome now since 2017 of the player. Reportedly, his performances have been impressive. Man United have been in negotiations with his current representatives, but reportedly the player has a 27 million release clause. Man United are willing to activate this in January. I think Roma want to secure him a new deal at the club. We know he's highly experienced in Italy. He's never been proven in the Premier League, as this Lorenzo Pellegrini. But reportedly, I think he made his senior debut for the um, international. He made his international debut, I think, last year. Was it something like that in 2017? He's tall. Reportedly, he's good in the air. His style of play looks very, very good to me. So potentially, do you think he could dramatically improve Manchester United if he was to come to Man United? It's just been coming out in the press today. I think it's been coming out in a lot of media reports. As he updated you, Man United had 80, according to press, Man United had an 80, £90 million bid turned down for Kaluubi. Um, for Kaluubi. I can't pronounce his name correctly, guys. Kaluubi. We had a bid turned down for him. He's highly experienced in Italy as well. He's been at Napoli since like 2014, so he's been there for like 4 or 5 years now. Partly he can play central defender, he can play as a fullback, and he can play as a defensive midfielder as well. He's got a new contract with them, as we all know, and he's just recently been nominated the African Player of the Year as well as this player. But reportedly, Mourinho has an interest in the player as well. We know Mourinho's got 11 players in, as I said. He's sanctioned 14 players off, as we all know. So potentially, I'd love to know your opinions on this, guys. What do you think to Lorenzo Pellegrini? What do you think to Napoli turning this 80, £90 million bid for Manchester United for Kaluubi? I might pronounce his name wrong, guys. Sorry about that if I have. So potentially for me, even Mourinho's admitted he's still convinced we can get the top four. Reportedly, Manchester United have to get top four this season to get Champions League for next season as well. And reportedly, we have to spend, to compete with the likes of City. And we know who spent a hell of a lot of money. They're the best team now in English football, without a doubt. Pep Guardiola spent a hell of a lot of money in that team. He's emulated the football he did with Bayern Munich and Barcelona. And he spent a lot of money into that Manchester City team, and they're working hard, they're gelling well together. As we all know, spent £1 billion his managerial career, but more than half of that has been spent on Manchester City. We're nowhere near on the same level as City at the moment. We're nowhere near on the same level as Liverpool, at the moment, especially this season. Liverpool have been playing very, very well in the Premier League. Klopp's addressed the problems fantastically well with Liverpool. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Emulate the football they did with Borussia Dortmund. They're looking very, very good tackler. Chelsea doing very, very well under Sarri. We know they've had a lot of managers sacked in a short period of time, Chelsea. Let's be quite honest. But I never heard this Sarri. I think he seems to be doing a very, very good job with Chelsea. But Sarri, Chelsea have got a lot of class players, as we all know. So basically, Man United are nowhere near on the same level as Chelsea. Man United are nowhere near on the same level as Liverpool this season. Man United are nowhere near on the same level as Manchester City. We're nowhere near on the same level as the European teams. I think potentially we're not even in the top 10 anymore. Potentially back under Fergie, we was in the top 2 as one of the best teams in the world. Obviously, but potentially we have basically, according to Mourinho, we have to spend to graduate to that higher level and compete with the European teams, the top European teams, and the top teams in the Premier League as well, because we're nowhere near competitive this season. We haven't been that competitive since Alex Ferguson left. We know Mourinho's still inheriting some of the team Van Gaal got in, because there's still 6 then players that Van Gaal obviously got in the club. We got 12, 6 departed, and there's still 6 here now. We know he's inheriting 2 of the players that David Moyes got in. For me, Mata, very, very good, consistent player. I hope he does sign a new contract, because I really, really like Juan Mata. I really like Juan Mata. I think he develops himself better in a number 10 position, as I said. I think he's better in a number 10 role. We have got a lot of players coming to the deals. As I said, you got Ashley Young. Reportedly, Man United are willing to offer him a cut price deal. A cut price for him reportedly to sign this new 1 year deal at the club. When Mourinho prefers him at that right back position, because obviously Mourinho's been playing him at that right back position. Ashley Young, for me, he's more of a right winger. Plays the right wing for England. Played as a right wing during his Aston Villa days. So I hope he does sign his new 1 year deal. He's proven well in the Premier League as well. Obviously with Villa, during his Villa days, and now he's at Manchester United. He's been here since 2011. I hope Valencia signs his new one-year deal as well, potentially. He hasn't played for a while due to that he's been suffering a mouth injury. He's experienced fantastic times at Manchester United, just like Ashley Young. We got him from Wigan, was it 2008, 2009? So he has been at the club now like over a decade as Antonio Valencia. So potentially for me, we need improvements in that squad. So anyway, what do you think to Lorenzo Pellegrini situation? What do you think to the Kaluubi situation? I'd like to know your opinions on it. As I said, drop your comments, likes below on the channel. As I said at the beginning of the video, if you do consider subscribe, as always, I know we'll be more live videos coming up very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.